Exploring diversity in scope and essence. Insights into chronicles. News simply telling us it's a small world. World Connect. Only on DD News.
Namaskar and welcome to the news for hearing impaired. First up, the headlines. Under pressure from Supreme Court, Karnataka finally agrees to release Kaveri water, the case to come up for hearing in Supreme Court today. Pakistan intensifies ceasefire violation along line of control. 5 violations in the past 24 hours. Several civilians injured in Poonch district of Jammu. Indian forces retaliate effectively. Visiting Singapore, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong to hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi today. Two countries likely to sign important agreements in the area of security, trade and investment. Pakistan further isolated on terrorism. Russia says it welcomes the surgical strike by India as every country has a right to defend itself. Former Pakistan President Pervez Musharraf too blames faulty policies of Pakistan government for its isolation. Heartwarming gesture by External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj assures visiting Pakistani youth delegation of safe return to their country, says daughters are a shared responsibility. BSF too returns a Pakistani boy who had strayed into India. And in sports, Team India crushed New Zealand by 178 runs on the 4th day of the Kolkata Test to seal the 3-match series against New Zealand 2-0, retains number 1 spot in Test rankings, pushing Pakistan behind. And now the news in detail. Karnataka has started the release of Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu on Monday, the move in compliance with the Supreme Court order that gave time to Karnataka till today to follow order on release of water to Tamil Nadu. The Karnataka State Assembly passed an unanimous resolution empowering the state government to utilize the water stored in its reservoirs for drinking as well as agriculture and other purposes. The resolution stated that given the increase in storage levels in the Kaveri Basin, the state government may take an appropriate decision regarding release of water for irrigation. Since the surgical strikes conducted by Indian Army across the line of control on the night of 28th of September to target terror launch pads, Pakistani security forces have carried out at least 10 ceasefire violations in Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab, 4 of which took place on Monday. The Pakistan Army opened fire without any reason in 4 sectors of Poonch, Shahpur, Kerni, Sojian and Krishna Ghati. The Indian Army responded befittingly. Infiltration attempts have also been foiled by alert security forces who have been on their toes ever since the Uri terror attack. Home Minister Rajnath Singh is meanwhile on a 2-day visit to Leh and Kargil in Jammu and Kashmir. Home Minister is in the region as part of the centre's efforts to establish peace and stability in J&K and solve people's problems. Singh appreciated the people of Ladakh for being true and staunch nationalists and standing shoulder to shoulder with army and security forces in defending the country from both external and internal threats. He also reviewed the security situation in the state with state government officials who briefed him on the prevailing law and order situation in the state. Home Minister will visit Kargil today. Russia has supported India's surgical strikes on terror launch pads across the line of control, saying every country has a right to defend itself. In an interview to a private news channel, Russian ambassador to India Alexander M. Kadakhin has said that this was the only country to say in plain words that terrorists came from Pakistan. He also firmly added that his country had always been with India in fighting cross-border terrorism. Former Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf also blamed faulty policies of Pakistani government for its isolation. Amid ongoing tensions between India and Pakistan, a friendly gesture by External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj has won the hearts of a visiting Pakistani youth delegation. The team of 19 young women had come to India to participate in the Global Youth Peace Festival in Chandigarh on September 27. But following the Indian Army's surgical strikes across the line of control, their scheduled return on 4th of October looked uncertain. While the authorities provided the Girls for Peace group extra security, the young women came under pressure from home to return immediately. On 1st of October, Alia Harir, the convener of the Peace Forum Agaz-e-Dosti on India-Pakistan Friendship Initiative, spoke with External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, who assured their safe return. To that came a heartwarming reply from the Home Union Minister, saying that there are no borders for daughters, they belong to all. In a tweet on 2nd of October, Harir, a student of international relations at Troy University of the US, who describes herself as a feminist, had said that Indians treat their guests like gods. External Affairs Minister has won huge praise and popularity on Twitter for reaching out to all those who asked her for help. In a noble gesture amid heightened tension between the two countries, the BSF on Monday handed back to Pakistani authorities a 12-year-old boy who had accidentally crossed over to the Indian side in search of drinking water. Officials said the boy, identified as Mohammad Tanveer, was apprehended by the border security forces on Sunday evening at the border post in Punjab. BSF took care of Tanveer overnight and kept him at their camp and contacted their Pakistani counterparts the next day so that he could be sent back to his village. Moving on, the fourth bi-monthly monetary policy review would be made public at 2:30 p.m. today after the MPC meeting. The first meeting of the newly constituted 6-member panel Monetary Policy Committee, headed by RBI Governor Urjit Patel, began in Mumbai yesterday. The two-day deliberations will consider various factors like inflation, credit offtake, and the need to propel growth, foreign trade and global economic factors. This will also be Urjit Patel's maiden policy announcement as RBI governor. Experts are of the opinion that given the price situation, panel is expected to keep rates unchanged to meet the targeted inflation of 4%. Visiting Singapore, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong will hold bilateral talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi today. The two leaders are likely to sign important agreements in the areas of security, trade and investment. Prime Minister of Singapore is on a 5-day India visit aimed at deepening bilateral ties in a range of areas, including trade and investment. The Singaporean Prime Minister is accompanied by his wife, Ho Ching, a number of key ministers and senior officials. Lee will also call on President Pranab Mukherjee and attend a reception for Singaporeans based in India. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj will also call on the Prime Minister of Singapore. President Pranab Mukherjee on Monday presided over a function for distribution of keys and ownership certificates for EWS houses at Jivaji University in Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. These houses were built under the Integrated Housing and Slum Development Project. Out of total 1,088 houses, keys and ownership certificates were given to 632 beneficiaries from economically weaker sections. During the program, President Mukherjee complimented Prime Minister Narendra Modi for launching Housing for All scheme to provide homes to weaker sections by 2022. The United States broke off talks with Russia on Monday on implementing a ceasefire agreement on Syria and accused Moscow of not living up to its commitments. The US State Department made that announcement and said that Russia was not committed to the September 9 deal to halt the violence and deliver humanitarian aid to besieged communities. Meanwhile, Russia's Foreign Ministry said it regretted the decision, blaming Washington for trying to shift responsibility for the failure onto Moscow. Russia and US have traded blame for the collapse last month of a short-lived ceasefire deal that would have marked the first step in a new effort to end the war. The UN Syria envoy has voiced deep disappointment at the collapse of US-Russian talks to revive a Syria ceasefire. Stefan de Mistura vowed that the UN will continue to keep working for a political solution. Russia has suspended an agreement with the US on the disposal of surplus weapons-grade plutonium, the latest sign of worsening bilateral relationships. In a decree, Russian President Vladimir Putin accused US of creating a threat to strategic stability as a result of unfriendly actions towards Russia. Moscow also set preconditions for the US for the deal to be resumed. Under the 2000 deal, each side is supposed to get rid of 34 tons of plutonium by burning it in reactors. Also on Monday, President Putin submitted a bill to Parliament setting a series of preconditions for the US for the agreement to be resumed, including reduction of US military infrastructure and troops in countries that joined NATO after 1 September 2000, lifting of all US sanctions against Russia and compensation for the damage they have caused. The US State Department said the combined 68 tons of plutonium was enough material for approximately 17,000 nuclear weapons. Both sides had confirmed the deal in 2010. Explosions echoed across Kunduz as Afghanistan commandos drove back a Taliban assault, forcing residents to shelter in their homes. The fight comes a year after militants briefly seized the strategic provincial capital. Government helicopters were targeting gunmen from air in a bid to repel the attack, which came a day before President Ashraf Ghani was due to meet world powers at a major donors conference in Brussels. According to NATO and security officials, militants were driven out of the city centre late yesterday. Afghan Interior Ministry said one policeman had been killed and 4 wounded. Media reports on Monday claimed that IS chief Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and 3 of his top aides were seriously ill after being poisoned during a lunchtime feast. They were then reportedly shifted to an unknown location under strict measures. Meals prepared for Baghdadi and 3 other ISIS leaders were allegedly poisoned in Iraq. After the incident, ISIS militants were conducting several arrests in order to determine who was behind it. Baghdadi, who has reportedly been wounded multiple times, carries $10 million bounty on his head. On to cricket now. India has produced an all-round bowling display on the 4th day of the Eden Gardens Test to complete a 178-run win over New Zealand. India now takes an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match Test series. Mohammad Shami, R. Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja scalped 3 wickets apiece as the visitors folded for 197 in the chase of 376.